Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Avexia webinar series. Our topic for today is Metabolic Performance Profile with supplement recommendations. My name is Christopher Chu. I am the Director of Marketing for Avexia Diagnostics and will be your host for this webinar. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by an exciting guest, Dr. Clifford Morris, who will be our presenter for this webinar. Dr. Clifford Morris began his career as a PhD biochemist focusing on elucidating neurodegenerative diseases supported under grants from National Institutes of Health and the Alzheimer's Association. His work on utilizing Caribbean coral natural products and functionalized hybrid nanoparticles was published in multiple international peer-reviewed journals. He then went on to head up a clinical research and development lab, innovating novel integrative medicine testing methods and acting as the principal investigator for clinical studies and trials. He is fellowship trained and board certified in anti-aging medicine and sciences. Dr. Morris is committed to using his knowledge and expertise to make a tangible impact by developing therapies and strategies to improve the quality of life for all affected. Armed with extensive education and training, Dr. Morris aims to keep Physicians Lab at the forefront of state-of-the-art science to provide physicians with relevant wellness and diagnostic testing in the field of integrative, functional, and regenerative medicine. Without further delay, I will now turn the webinar over to Dr. Morris.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Clifford Morris. I'm the Director of Research and Development at Physicians Lab. And today we're going to cover some information and background about our exciting metabolic performance panel. So a little bit about us. We're located in sunny Boca Raton, Florida. We were formed in 2011 and licensed shortly after that in 2012. We are CLIA licensed in 48 states, and we are COLA accredited as a high complexity as well as medium complexity chemistry laboratory. We use state-of-the-art LC-MS technology as well as robotic automation for high-quality sample processing. Some advantages of working with us: we have affordable test panels developed by physicians for healthcare providers. We ship kits with instructions directly to your patients, and test result turnaround times are really fast in 3 to 7 calendar days. Easy to interpret test results. Our dedicated clinical service teams provides personalized guidance on test result interpretation for everybody involved. And we focus on superior science and developing results that are high quality and produce tangible outcomes every time. So a little bit about this metabolic performance panel. Well, it's a process of science called metabolomics. These are the processes involving biochemical intermediates and products for metabolism within your body. This produces unique chemical fingerprints that specific cellular processes leave behind. It's an instantaneous snapshot of what's happening in the body, a direct functional readout of the physiological state. And our test is, very importantly, it's non-invasive. It's a single sample of urine, so it's easy to collect anywhere, anytime, and that's a really important factor to a lot of patients and clients. Ultimately, the consequences here is that the metabolome that we're looking at in this panel is a consequence or a result of all the other processes within your body and everything you're exposed to as well. So things like nutrition, medication and supplements, lifestyle, and the environment, those all impact our body, as well as things like your genetics and epigenetics. The final consequence of that can be a readout that we see in the urine by looking at all of these metabolites. And that gives us direct information about your phenotype, the physical presentation of your body, what you actually are now and today. So it's not hypothetical or theoretical information. The metabolome is a direct readout of the processes that are happening biochemically in your body. And then we can learn a lot from that by understanding what's going on in the body on a molecular level. We use these metabolomic strategies to our advantage. And then we are able to personalize nutrient intake in the form of diet, supplements, nutraceuticals. And when we do that, we can promote disease prevention, longevity, health, and wellness. And that's the ultimate goal here, is to use the science and technology to take tools from it and then provide recommendations and what people can actually do to improve their metabolomic signature and optimize these pathways within the body. When the body is optimized and functioning very well, we're able to stave off disease, we're able to build muscle, and live long and healthy. The Metabolic Performance Panel is pretty complex science behind it, but we boil it down and make it simple to understand. We look at a wide variety of categories throughout the body that are actionable. We want to make sure that if we look at these biomarkers within the body, we can go and do something about it. So some of the categories that we look at include amino acids, essential and non-essential amino acids, vitamin markers, which are ultra critical in today's age. Generally, people are deficient in their diets, and we have to ensure that B vitamins are properly supplemented. Inflammation and oxidative stress, another very relevant category at this time and age. Muscle performance. A lot of people are struggling to build healthy muscle, or weight loss patients. We understand that muscle is a huge consequence, losing muscle on a lot of medications, especially GLP-1s, and muscle performance for athletes, endurance, stamina, as well as when we age. So that's a very important category. Gut dysbiosis. We look at many markers that give you indication of how the gut is functioning, and that's really critical for immune health, neurotransmitter development, hormones. There's multiple factors where the gut is more and more research coming out showing how important it is for our overall health and wellness. Then we dive pretty deep into the body as well, look at things like cellular energy, the Krebs and citric acid cycles. Are we producing energy on the cellular level? Sleep markers, how are we sleeping? How can we supplement sleep, not just melatonin, but also neurotransmitter metabolites like GABA and glycine? Are we overactive or underactive in terms of neurotransmitter balance? And we can learn a lot of information about that. So as I say, we take this complex science and we boil it down. We make it simple and easy to understand. And ultimately what we see here is our report. This is how the report looks for the Metabolic Performance Panel. On page 1 on the left-hand side, we have the metabolic dashboard. It's one page where you get all the information from an category perspective through these systems of the body, as well as this all-important metabolic score. The metabolic score is the average of the patient or client's results, and it's compared to the average healthy person. The average healthy score is 50%, similar to an IQ score of 100. That's the average healthy person that has a metabolic score of 50%. And if you score under that, you've generally got, quite a bit of work to do. You're scoring worse than your peers, considered less healthy, less optimal than your peers, less nutritionally balanced. And we certainly want to work on that by optimizing independent pathways within your own body. As I say, 50% is about average. And then as it increases, that's when you start optimizing the body and finding out what specific precise nutrients or supplements are required. Then you can look through the categories and it shows you an overall score for each category. So you can quickly identify, is it just one or two categories pulling down the score, or is it maybe more universal or systemic? We look at the gut assessment, inflammation and oxidative stress, overall cellular energy production, our amino acids, muscle assessment, and B vitamins. And they work in concert, really starting with the gut. You have to have a solid gut foundation if you're providing increase in dietary recommendations, supplements, nutrients. If you're suffering from leaky gut, things like SIBO, a lot of recommendations aren't going to work as effectively as they can. So one of the first areas is always to focus on the gut, followed by things like inflammation, a very prominent issue with a lot of people. And we really want to address inflammation. And we're also seeing a lot of deficiencies in B vitamins and methylation, which are crucial cofactors in many processes within your body, from neurotransmitters to hormones. And then ultimately, building muscle is the final trophy. Once you optimize the body, you start supplementing, the metabolic score improves, the gut is healthy and able to absorb and function well, immune system. You're in an anti-inflammatory status where you're not constantly using your body's resources for inflammation and oxidative stress. Uh, B vitamins and methylation are occurring, so hormones are strong, and you're sleeping well. The final consequence really is muscle. And I like to look at that as a trophy of the body, and it can give you really good information. Ultimately, is the body anabolic or catabolic? And is it building up and thriving, or is it just breaking down and surviving? So that's the first page of the report. And then we shift over to the second page, which arguably to me is the most important. On the second page, we make it very easy to see the recommendations that our report specifically provides. We have a clinically approved recommendation algorithm driving all of these. And so when we look at the biomarker, it can tell us, is it detected to be high or low? And then very importantly, what is the recommendation? What do we go and do about that? For example, at the top line there, we can see benzoic acid. Well, it's above detection limit, extremely high. And some recommendations for that are vitamin B5 and glycine. And then we also point some hints and tips to the potential causes. Why is this occurring in the body? And so you can understand what areas to look at, understand more about the symptoms that the patient or client might be approaching with, and really look at alleviating the root causes of what is fundamentally causing these issues. And then the next step really here is to package these supplements together, tailor them in a way that they're easy to take every single day, and address these deficiencies. Then in the future, you do a follow-up test. In about 3 to 4 months, we recommend you do a follow-up test and you can see how the score improves, what areas still need working on, and you can track from the baseline how you're improving, track it over time, and it engages the patient or client. That way, they are getting a clinical lab report that shows them not only are they feeling better, that the results are actually changing. Quantitative clinical results in the form of a lab report that shows them the inside of their body is responding to the behavioral, diet, lifestyle, and supplement changes that are being initiated in their new routines. So this is an excellent tool. We find that the first page really resonates well with patients and clients. It's easy to understand. It's relevant to them. And then the second page is ultimately where you go and do the work. You take this and you look at the supplement recommendations and provide those to the patient or client to then go on their way. As I say, recommendations in about 3 to 4 months is a great follow-up frequency. Not too much on the patient where they're over testing, but enough where you're getting information on a good time scale where you can make adjustments and continue to optimize the patient.
Okay, and now we're going to cover a case study. So ultimately, we had a 46-year-old female come into our lab, 110 to 110 pounds, 5 foot tall, 2 children, premenopausal, no chronic pre-existing conditions. The interesting part is this is not an atypical patient to see. She's in fact a practitioner at a new clinic, was extremely stressed, an elite athlete in Ironman triathlon training, and teaches spin classes twice a week. Practiced intermittent fasting every day, sometimes a green juice in the morning. Diet was mostly raw vegan, some paleo and Mediterranean style diet. Junk food, everyone is subject to that a couple times a week. body isn't constantly in fear mode, right? Overtraining, undereating, stressed and inflamed, pretty typical of metabolic syndrome, chronic inflammation syndrome. Likely sympathetic system dominant, just constantly stuck in that activated mode. Really non-compliant with their supplements, which included vitamin D, B complex, some other common supplements, your CoQ10, omegas, probiotics, taking some peptides, CJC and ipamolin, but again, inconsistent. And all of these really work in synergy, wherein you're taking them consistently and paying attention to what you're taking, the doses, combinations in conjunction with your diet and lifestyle. And all of those, in effect, can work together to overcome a lot of these issues. Now, what did their test report look like? So this is our old report, but the information is still the same, and the readout is still the same using these bar graphs for each of the categories. And this was her initial metabolic performance panel test. And from this, we can immediately see 4 out of the 7 categories had a poor score, in the red or very close to the red. And 3 out of the 7 had a fair score. So really, really not doing well when we are looking at how she is metabolically balanced, completely overtraining, and the body is demanding a lot here. And so from this, we have to understand, what did the body exactly need? How do we go and do that? And then we do some follow-up testing to ensure that the changes are eliciting a positive response. And from this, we can see, I mean, B vitamins are a major factor here. We see that spread out throughout the recommendations. B vitamins, CoQ10, and methylation support, especially in women as they're perimenopausal, postmenopausal. Methylation support is critical for a lot of our estrogen hormones, and so it goes hand in hand with a lot of the hormone health as well. Muscle damage from over-exercising, I think that's pretty obvious. Trains way too much. Potential SIBO or gut dysbiosis, we're definitely seeing some imbalance there. Inflammation is evident, especially with the marker 8-OHDG, very popular marker that is highly correlated with systemic inflammation. And we saw extremely high levels with her, again, inflammation from the overtraining as well. Potentially in ketosis, whether intentional or not. Low iron and copper, and definitely the essential amino acids, not fueling enough of those essential amino acids, especially the BCAAs, that are going to go hand in hand with restoring, repairing, and building and keeping healthy muscle. So what interventions were taken by this patient? So pure encapsulations, growth hormone support, great supplement, and contains alpha-ketoglutarate, ornithine, and citrulline, taken before bed or before workouts. Hydrolyzed collagen, again, very important for joints, muscle, your musculoskeletal health, critical there. Mitochondrial rescue, ensuring that we're getting the energy that is digested into the core of the cell, deep into the mitochondria. That's a pretty involved process, and it involves things like CoQ10, carnitine, and carnosine, as well as fulvic acid. B vitamins, of course, a lot of Americans are deficient in our general diet, low in B vitamins. SAMe and NAC. SAMe really helps with the methylation component, especially with your estrogens, and NAC is a great precursor to glutathione and helps with some of the inflammatory load in the body. Some ketone mixes, amino acids, getting stricter with intermittent fasting, usually one larger meal in the afternoon and a light dinner. Meditation and stress management. I mean, this is so critical. We know it, we hear it, but it really does make a difference. If you're implementing all these other changes, supplements, hormones, whatever it may be, if you're not completing that with good stress management, getting cortisol down, making sure the body is not in a pro-inflammatory and constantly in a fear mode, and then good, healthy sleep. Some people respond really well to things like Oura rings and Whoop bands and Fitbits. It's a great way to get clients and patients more engaged and involved in monitoring these things. And from the behavioral side of things, those can be really helpful. So I'm a big fan of using those things, and of course, sleep, 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 and high quality sleep. So what did she look like when she returned? Well, this was 6 months later. That's a pretty good long time to see the changes that we would want. We could recommend as early as 3 to 4 months. That gives you enough time to see the changes and then continue to work on optimization of some smaller, more granular recommendations or components of the body as the cascades begin to repair themselves. Then you're continually optimizing as the body ages, deals with new environmental stressors, anything like that. So she comes back after 6 months, does another test, and we see now 6 out of 7 of the categories with a good score. So very good to see that, returning some very positive outcomes here. And then 1 of the 7 categories with a poor score. But it makes good sense to us when we look at that. She was still training, and when we broke it down and looked at the levels again, the one thing she couldn't break away from was the 8-OHDG and as well as proline and hydroxyproline ratio, which is indicative of musculoskeletal breakdown in a catabolic state. And so again, until she stops overtraining and stops competing and going through those kind of processes, we wouldn't really see that return. There's only so much we can do, but this is a really great example that I wanted to share today of exactly how significant these changes can be. And then as you continue to do this, that there's still workup, there's still continuation and follow-up, and it works in an ever ongoing process and continually striving to keep the body metabolically balanced. As I said earlier, all the changes that continually go, not only aging, but everything else the body is exposed to.
And so I hope you enjoyed this overview of our metabolic performance panel. Thank you.
For any questions or issues you may have, please contact Avexia Diagnostics by email at info@avexiadiagnostics.com or by phone 5 days a week at extended hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time at 888-852-2723. Thank you, Dr. Morris, for this informative presentation, and thank you all again for joining us for this webinar event. Until next time, from everyone at Avexia Diagnostics and Physicians Lab, stay healthy, stay safe, and we wish you all the best on your pathway to wellness.